Chilean Patagonia, one of the world's few remaining truly wild places. A landscape of stunning beauty, endlessly open and untamed. A place of incessant brutal winds, frigid waters, unnamed and unconquered peaks. A land so majestic and mysterious. Its siren call has seduced global adventurers for centuries. Following in the footsteps of Magellan and Darwin, modern explorers await their chance to launch a journey of exploration, an epic expedition using only basic map and compass. Trekking, mountain biking, and kayaking in the toughest and southernmost adventure race ever run, the full length of Tierra del Fuego. Chile stretches 4,300 kilometers along the southwestern coast of continental South America. At its southern tip, the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans come together. That's where you'll find the big island of Tierra del Fuego. The landscape of Tierra del Fuego is the ultimate in diversity. Immense pampas or treeless plains dominate the northern portion of the island. The other end is covered with the southernmost native forests in the world. Backdrop of majestic peaks protect wild rivers, fjords and inlets that make up the many channels of Tierra del Fuego. Such diversity provides ample opportunity for unique flora and fauna. In the south, it's the Beagle Channel in the shadow of the Darwin Range that defines the limit of one of the largest islands in all of the Americas. Tierra del Fuego is contained on the north by the Strait of Magellan, the most important natural passageway between the world's two great oceans. "14 teams made up of 56 athletes representing 10 countries have assembled to begin their journey. Winds are gusting up to 45 knots, a precursor to the difficulties that lie ahead for these adventurers.
Ready to go! Woo!
Gotta
run, I'm freezing!
Woo, yeah!
One team seemingly unfazed by the conditions is British squad Helly Hansen-Pranesco, winners of the 2009 edition. The team won a notoriously brutal edition rife with attrition. Returning intact a year later with all 4 members, a unique feat in adventure racing, the team hopes to repeat in these challenging circumstances that, to their great advantage, they now know well. And so the expedition begins simply, in the wind and soft sand with a 16-kilometre trek. Indicative of strategy and temperament, some teams begin with a flourish and run for early position. Others simply put one foot in front of the other, casually, aware that it's a very, very long journey ahead indeed. But each begins the race with wonderment and the spirit of adventure in a land that won't fail to fulfill great expectations. Let's take a look at the course. The expedition begins at the northern extreme of Tierra del Fuego. The teams alternate trekking and mountain biking. Not easy in savage summer winds. Teams must check in at each control point along the course, but are otherwise free to make their own route using only a simple map and compass. After the longest bike section of the course, teams must conquer the 2,000+ metre high Darwin Range on the longest trek that could take up to 4 days. Once through the high passes, it's a challenging kayak trip across the Beagle Channel. One final trek through the dense forest, and those who are able to conquer will arrive back on the channel and the finishing line after a total of 554 kilometres. The solitude of the deserted beach and pounding surf is interrupted with the clusters of teams pushing through the sand. Groups fragment, some seeking shelter from the wind and the surf. others moving ahead purposefully, playing on strengths and breaking away from the group. It isn't long before all 14 teams are strewn up and down the beachfront. Hoping to defend their title, Team Helly Hansen Prinesco pushed their pace, presumably to stay warm in tough conditions and also to gain ground on trailing teams. They currently follow Team Switzerland in the race lead, but they're never out of sight. The beauty along the Strait of Magellan is both stunning and harsh, a perfect backdrop to an expedition of modern explorers. One has to wonder how the original explorers and natives felt those centuries ago on these very same shores. Ferdinand Magellan was the first European to lead an expedition to the region when he found passage to the Pacific in the year 1520. He discovered the strait in an effort to claim a western route to the Spice Islands for Spain on what would become the first global circumnavigation. The explorer would not survive the journey, dying in battle with the natives on what are now known as the Philippines. Magellan, who from his vessel observed numerous fires along the beach, christened the island he discovered Tierra del Fuego. These native people were the Selknam, who lived by hunting wild guanaco and rodents with bows and arrows. The arrival of Europeans in large numbers in the late 1800s doomed the natives. Today, they are remembered for the fact that they lived in such harsh conditions with so little, and also for the involved initiation ceremonies with elaborate costumes to represent spirits. While about half of the field continues to progress along the beach, choosing to conserve energy in these early moments of an arduous journey, the frontrunners have made the transition to the blowing grassland that dominate northern Tierra del Fuego. Swiss lead the charge across the pampas, but still almost within arm's reach of the British team. Team Switzerland is first to the transition and control point. The strategy is to quickly change from trekking mode to cyclist. Time to unpack and configure bikes that have been transported here by the race organisation. Waves of racers move into the checkpoint with a sense of urgency. Europe is amply represented by Team Herberts from Germany, led by duathlon world champion Marc Chesbezin, and Spain, rounding out the top 4 teams into checkpoint 2. It isn't long before the area looks like a yard sale, with bikes and racers alike in various states of repair. As US team GearJunkie.com make their way into the control point 13 minutes behind the leaders, Helly Hansen Prinesco is first to make it onto the bikes and the next leg. The racers face a ride of 110 kilometres along the double track and paved roads into north-central Tierra del Fuego. Almost half of it against ferocious crosswinds. Team Switzerland is only moments behind the Brits. But the crosswinds play havoc, pushing the bikes across the road and making the effort that much harder. Brazil's team Terramundi Lontra is soon on course, as is Team Untamed New England, still in sight of the white-capped Strait of Magellan. Soon everyone is underway and struggling against the oppressive hand Patagonia is dealing out. Team Switzerland takes advantage of 3 punctures by Helly Hansen Prinesco to move ahead on the course, leading on the descent into control point 3.